your mouth, better add the respect. Otherwise, pressure gon' be at your neck when I burn you like. This ain't a game, my aim is to throw. I'm much higher than you, like a rocket, a drone. I'm powerful, think of a stone, throw it off in my brain and I'm bad to the bone.
Welcome, everyone, to another day of the KDL in 2023. My name is Wolf. I'm joined by State today. We have 2 solo matches, actually. No team matches today. We're done with the regular season there. We're heading into the round of 16.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting, man. It's been a couple of weeks since I've casted KDL, so it's good to be back. And now the stakes are getting higher than ever. We're finally getting into the nitty-gritty for the solo matches. Top 16 starts today. The lineups for the solo matches, both in match number 1 and match number 2, are excellent. And I can't be more excited to get started.
Yeah, it's going to be really awesome. We have, of course, a lot of information we're going to be sharing with you guys as well. We have a little pre-show for you before the matches do start, so we can kind of get you guys into understanding where we are in this tournament. You can see the overview here. We've started this tournament way back in October, the beginning of October. We're now getting towards the end.
Yeah, we've fought through the round of 32, through the redemption matches, and now only 16 players remain in these solos, and none of those 16 players will be eliminated today. The top 4 from each match will be advancing into the winner's match for the round of 16. The bottom 4 will fall to the loser's match where they face elimination, and over the next couple of weeks, we'll eventually decide who is going to go to the finals on December 2nd.
Yeah, you can see that 25th match will be the major one there to decide those final 4 to go to the finals. And the champion will be taking home 10 million won. You can see the rest of the breakdowns there. The player with the most track records at the end will get the record breaker prize of $500,000 won there, 500,000. So a lot of money on the line here. Very exciting stuff here in our first season of Kart Rider Drift League.
Yeah, and a lot of storylines actually developing here, especially in match number 1, which I'm sure we're going to get into later. But NEAL, you know, the global sensation coming into the KDL, has been absolutely spectacular. I think he's one of the favorites to advance all the way into the finals. He struggled a bit in the preseasons, but I'm looking to see him get there. As we take a look, he actually holds a number of track records right now on Mine-Winding Slopes, Factory Facility 5, Forest, Zigzag, Timberland. NEAL's been popping off, but really a lot of Live Sandbox players in general today, Wolf.
Yeah, we do have quite a lot of them. You can see Cool also holding 2 records there on Boom Hill Tunnel and Glacier Extreme Stadium, representing Guangdong here in this list. Luning and Byungsu actually have the tied record there on Mexico Touring Rally, so that is very rare, but it does happen. And then you have players like Nok and Woojun as well, who hold some records here. So it's a really stacked group that we're going to be taking a look at today, and NEAL dominating his last group in just 7 rounds is really, really cool. We might actually see him do the triple back-to-back to end the group at 30 today. It could absolutely happen.
Yeah, we haven't had that yet. We've actually had a number of racers get 2 consecutive first-place finishes in a row, but so far we haven't had anybody, since that new rule got implemented, succeed in winning 3 tracks in a row. And if you're missing it, if you didn't know about this new rule that's being debuted here in the first season of the KDL, the first regular season, in solo matches, if you win any 3 tracks in a row, it doesn't have to be at the beginning, it could be in the middle, you are just the winner of whichever group you're playing. I think heading all the way up until maybe the finals, where you do actually have to play all the way to the 50 points, but we haven't yet gotten anybody there here. As we look at the winner stats, you can see NEAL actually winning round 4 and round 5 during his group. I think that he finished something like 20 points above everybody else.
Yeah, it was insane. He was 20 points up. Notice the records here of some of these players like Hojun, who had a great start to his group, but then had to kind of bounce back there towards the end, ending up winning that final round 10. And you can see actually a lot of players have gotten those back-to-back wins in the first 2 rounds, but then have failed to actually get the 3rd one. So you can actually see a lot of these players were very close to actually getting that 3 consecutive, but did not end up succeeding. big dips actually, interestingly, around round 4 for a lot of these players, you know? But it's fun to watch these trends as they're... the dominant one is NEAL, clearly. Like, he has the most consistently high one of all these players.
Yeah, occasionally you'll get a racer, although we don't really see that trend here, who kind of plays the pension meta, as the Koreans like to call it, which means you're not necessarily racing for first or second place. You're just trying to get top 4 every single time, maybe top 5 at worst. And then by the time the round is over, ideally you have enough points to qualify you for the next round, and you're able to accumulate those points safely because you're not taking a lot of risks. You're not going for really tight lines, you're not going for collisions, you're not doing anything that might jeopardize your chance of having a respectable finish. But these guys right here are the opposite of that. These are the racers. NEAL, Sungbin, Hero, Cool, Hojin, Luning, and then Hero again, as well as Will. All have gotten 2 consecutive first place records, and for a lot of them, as you were pointing out, Wolf, that happened in round 1 and round 2. I see Hojin, Sungbin, and Cool all won on round 1 and round 2, but failed to win in round number 3. And today we have 2 solo matches. You know, we have round of 16, both on both sides, state players in a lobby. You know, we have 2 chances of getting a player to win 3 consecutive first places in a row, and I think of all the days in the KDL, this is probably the most likely one.
I feel like with NEAL playing, you know, your chances are really high, Hojun as well. But, I mean, as we've both been talking about, it's usually the earlier rounds we see this happen. And weirdly enough, even if you are, you know, at the back of the standings, you will just boost yourself to winning the group if you get the back-to-back-to-back. And it is very rare and elusive, but as we've seen, we've come so close so many times. And here are the track selections here. If you are the yellow racer, which means the highest seed, you do have track selection. After that, every winner will have track selection following. So it's a NEAL taking Mexico Touring Rally here. And DDING taking Glacier Extreme Stadium. And he did end up getting first there. And Spear, another Mexico Touring Rally selector. That map is, or rather track, is quite popular these days.
Yeah, it's a fun one. I actually have really enjoyed watching these racers, especially in the solo matches, go through Mexico Touring Rallies. Some of the changes in the most recent patch as well, with collisions not necessarily depleting your nitro gauge, has led to a lot more aggressive plays. And in solos, it's very fun to see on Mexico Touring Rally. So it's cool to have some players like NEAL and Spear actually choose that when they have the option as the yellow racer. And of course, coming into today, NEAL for round of 16, match number 1, he's going to be the yellow racer. We'll have to see eventually what that pick is going to be.
Yeah, it's interesting to see that 3 of these players actually did not do very well on their track selection. You mentioned Hero getting 7th, Spear 7th, and then Luning taking 7th as well there. So, you know, it doesn't always work out, your starting track, but it did work out for NEAL. Ended up getting top 2, and DDING, of course, as we mentioned, winning that first one. But, yeah, as you mentioned, NEAL will have that option today in our first group.
Yeah, I'll have the first pick. And of course, after that, the winner of each track is able to choose the following track. So there is a good chance that one of these racers will be able to go for that 3-peat if they can get it. So we take a look at the points earned per round section here. Strong in the early rounds, really not too many racers. World, Striker, Hyunsu, and DDING usually very strong out of the gates, but not quite balanced after that. Whereas we have a lot of players, especially Live Sandbox players, right here in the overall balance section. NEAL, JiMin, and Byungsu joined by pretty much everybody else.
Yeah, notice that in the overall balance here, JiMin is one of the highest there on red, and he has basically played pension style this entire tournament for solos. So that's his play style. You know, for those who don't know, as State mentioned earlier, it's just kind of trying to stay top 4 basically as consistently as you can, never really dropping back to those later positions. So I'm looking forward to seeing how he's going to end up performing. It's a very tough group that he's playing in today. But yeah, we now have kind of like set the stage for what we're about to jump into here. Very important match to go to the winner's match, so you don't have to face elimination. You get a whole extra chance if you're able to get top 4 today.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be on everybody's mind, and that makes me wonder whether we have some racers like JiMin actually go a little bit off script, because that pension meta, I feel like it works better in groups where the overall skill is a little bit lower, but once you get into rounds like the round of 16 or eventually the finals, and the skill gets tougher and tougher and tougher, the competition gets more fierce, it's hard to make that pension meta work. So we'll see what adjustments these racers have coming into the round of 16 as we look at the leaders for the Fan Race MVP. Boong, DDING, Hyunsu, Navi, Nak, and DDING as well, getting picked actually twice, both for match 24 and match 28. And with 3-win streaks, Spear and Hyunsu.
Yeah, Spear and Hyunsu on the 3-win streak, and then you've got several on 2, Striker, JiMin, Sungbin, Boong, Ding, Navi, and Nock. So, you know, not surprising to see this, to be honest. I'd say of the of these players, Boong probably the one that stands out the most. Navi obviously having a fantastic set of item as well, but Boong having a really good day on that match 23, so ended up getting selected there. But otherwise, you know, it's the players you would expect to see, right, from these rosters. Hyunsu having a really good year.
Yeah, and being arguably the best racer on that new Finale roster. He's been really remarkable, not just this season, but also over the course of the preseasons. He was always a highlight on whichever roster had the privilege of having him on their team. So some interesting picks here for the Fan Race MVP, but I think, like you said, not too many surprises overall up to this point.
Yeah. And here are our matchups. So we talked a lot about some of these individual players, but you could see the predictions here as well as, you know, who's in each group. So for match 1, I don't want to call it a group because it's not a technical group, although it's a group of 8 players. NEAL, Cool, Byungsu, JiMin, World, Nock, Hero, and Ding. So that's insane. And then match 2, Sungbin, Hojun, Hyunsu, Luning, Acid Fly, Boong, Striker, and Will. A very clear favorite in NEAL, right? And then a little bit more of a spread. And Hojun as well, of course, for that second one. So 2 clear favorites we have in these 2 groups.
Yeah, and I think for the Emperor coming into this regular season, he's just been so rock solid, not just in team matches, but also in the solos. It's kind of a renaissance for him, which is exciting because once he came back to Kartrider Drift and he started racing in the preseasons, he didn't quite look like the Emperor of old, but it feels like now that the regular season has come into fruition, now that these players have had a lot of months and weeks to practice this new version of Kartrider Drift, he's gotten a lot better, and he's looking like the Hojun of Legacy, you know?
And I think the team that he's on right now as well is able to support him and help train him because he's on a much stronger roster now than he was in the preseasons. It's basically a super team, MSJ, so that team he's basically constantly surrounded by incredibly gifted and talented players. They're talented. I'm struggling to get it out, but they're talented. So he's got like a lot of people around him who can help improve his gameplay and keep him up to date.
Yeah, that entire roster is just rock to bottom solid. I mean, them plus the Freaks plus Liv Sandbox, absolutely my favorites heading into the team postseason. And anytime you have a roster like that to back you up, it's really easy to get the momentum building. Sometimes we see these rosters where one player kind of stands alone and has to carry the weight. And it can be a burden, but for Hojun, you know, in match number 2, he's going to be a player to look out for. Over 56% of fans who voted take him as the favorite to win it, but that's later today. To start things off, at this day of the KDL, we have NEAL, 52% of fans voting for him, and he says the stronger the opponents, the more excited he gets. He is averaging nearly 8 points per round, which is absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah.
You get 10 for a win and 7 for second place, unless I'm mistaken. So that's
you're right.
Absolutely insane.
So he is averaging better than second place, basically, which is insanity. Now, our black racer here for today will be Cool. World has become Cool. This is a bit of a meme, but you guys probably could figure it out. He actually has the highest average collisions, which tells me that he's really settled into this new patch where that's actually quite strong. And how you can utilize the fact that the cars recover a lot better from collisions right now. So good stat there is Byungsu will be the red racer. He'll learn from the experience.
Yeah, Byungsu's been pretty solid overall in his previous group. He didn't fall below, I believe, 5th place, and he isn't necessarily even a racer that likes to play the pension meta. It's just that he's so rock solid when he is gunning first place that it's rare to see him at the bottom of any lineup at the end of the day. So for Byungsu coming in, I think one of the favorites, as well as a lot of these other Liv Sandbox players, such as JiMin. Of course, here in match number 1, we have JiMin, Byungsu, and NEAL, all representing Liv Sandbox out of these 8 players. As JiMin says, where did you go, Hyunsu? A little bit sad that Hyunsu didn't join him.
Yeah. Look at his average point, a flat 5.0. Really does just show his play style, right? He's right in the middle of the pack. And that's tough to pull off, though, in a group like this, as he will have world cool ass.
Yeah. World class, in a way.
World and Cool are always memeing each other. You can tell these guys love each other so much. They're brothers, they're teammates, and they just want to tease each other all the time.
Yeah, they were a lot of fun. Good to have them here. Can we get the camera to focus? You can see him actually looking to see if he can get that in
A Bazzy enjoyer.
Expect, yeah, the Bazzy enjoyer going head first is Knock. He has a lot of these fan little badges here with him.
Yeah, he's the green racer today, and the signs, got his name in green because he is. It said, "What's the color of the winner today?" We'll see if he can live up to it. And that says, "Let's go to the winners match there." And Hero is in Microsoft Paint.
I actually mentioned that. I was looking at my notes there for a moment, asking if this is a preview of the finals. And you know what? It very well might be. This roster right here, with the exception of potentially missing Hojin from match number 2, it feels really strong. This group is absolutely stacked. It's one of the reasons why I'm excited that they're kind of in the double elimination section of the solo matches, where none of these players are going to be eliminated just yet. Of course, the top 4 advancing into the winners match, bottom 4 falling to the losers matches. The fact that we have DDING coming in as the Orange Racer, the 8th seed coming into this one. He says it's been a while since he's the Orange Racer, and that's not a surprise because DDING is a very talented kart rider drift player, and it's kind of a shock to really have him bottoming out any kind of seed standings.
Yeah, it really just shows how strong this season of the KDL is in general, that DDING would actually have to fight his way through the redemption match. He was the gold racer for that redemption match, finished 3rd to come here, and getting 3rd in that match is actually what puts him as Orange here. Insanity. That with a placing like that, that's where you end up against players like these. This is a titanic group. We obviously have a very strong, one coming up in match 2 after this as well, but it is going to be a good night of KDL, and whenever NEAL is playing, everybody is excited. He's one of the most popular global players that kart rider has ever seen. I mean, let's be frank, he is the biggest one we've ever seen. He's a sensation here in Korea as well. He's the gold racer. We're about to find out where he is taking us for this first track, and I mean, is it going to happen tonight? Is he going to be the first back-to-back 30 points and out end the race? I mean, you got to be scared too if you're in this group in your first race and NEAL wins. You're like, this could be it. Like, I'm not going to have that many races left to catch up.
Yeah, that is a risk. Anytime you have NEAL or Cool or Byungsu in a group like this one, you have to keep that in your mind, where they get those 3 wins, it might be the end of the group, and then, the dominoes are going to fall where they may. If you have a pretty rough start, if you don't have a good beginning with podium finishes in track 1, track 2, track 3, that could be you falling to the losers match as the pick from the gold racer NEAL comes in. It's going to be Glacier Snowbound Slopes where we kick off the round of 16 for solos.
The round of 16 is underway. NEAL's track selection here. He's the gold racer, and he's already out in the front.
Yeah, NEAL off to a fantastic start here coming in the first turn, battling neck and neck with Byungsu, and cool, a little bit of a collision there, but a nice recovery by NEAL. So he's continuing the draft coming into these hairpin turns, going to see if he can find an angle to pass Cool. A little bit ahead in the nitro gauge for now, but we'll see if that actually manifests into him taking the lead, and certainly it seems like it will.
Yeah, he's going to utilize that in just a moment here as Byungsu takes a little bit of a bounce, but we have a clear top 3 right now, and the observer's showing it from Byungsu's perspective. You can get that shot. There's quite a large gap between him and JiMin right now, but NEAL is really pulling ahead. Cool's actually struggling to maintain draft range here. We'll be able to catch up a little bit with that nitro.
Yeah, NEAL is actually taking such a phenomenal line on every single possible turn. His nitro gauge has been through the roof. As we're looking at the mini-map right now, we only see 4 racers right now. It's NEAL, Cool, Byungsu, and JiMin, who are even close to striking distance from NEAL. So really phenomenal start for the Live Sandbox legend.
Yeah, this is a 2-lap track where you will get to the ski jump here to reset things in just a moment. There it is. And having this much of a lead, this much tempo is very difficult to recover, or rather to catch up, that is to say. And you can see Byungsu significantly further ahead of World. The gap is closing a little bit as NEAL makes a small mistake here. Cool, gonna try to capitalize.
Yeah, coming down on this downward slope. NEAL gonna go for the inner line. A little bit of a collision there with Cool, and he is able to eke his way back into first place. As JiMin with a really rough collision there. NEAL as well. Both Live Sandbox players faltering a little bit here at the first couple of turns.
Yeah, I think World really gave NEAL a bit of a shock there that he came up that quickly and he wanted to try to block him, but World just completely avoids that. Now it's Cool and World, the 2 Kwangdong brothers here up at the front, and they are just running this track right now. JiMin, oof.
Yeah, JiMin like a ping pong ball, man. That was a hard collision right there. Went from 3rd place to 8th in an instant.
That's a -1 if I've ever seen one right there.
Yeah, that was That was a big collision as Cool and World continuing to battle this one out, coming closer and closer to the finish line here. Now DDING is going to try and make a play. He is the orange racer coming into this one, the 8th seed, able to work his way into second place though here as we come down one of these other slopes. All these racers trying to dodge the trees. Actually, World with a bad collision there, and now it's Cool versus DDING. For first place, DDING, he is in draft range. Does he have the nitrous to actually push him across the finish line? No, it's going to be Cool who takes track number 1 in really an impressive fashion. He was so consistent from start to finish. It feels like Cool was either in first place or second place the entire track.
Yeah, the entire track, start to finish. I mean, NEAL made that one mistake. He capitalized on it, but then he had full control. And JiMin also ended up getting 7th, so he won't lose any points here. He will not be starting this at -1. But that's a shocker, you know, because JiMin did actually have such a great start, and then bam, he hits the wall like that, and it's all over in an instant. It's World, in fact, who takes 8th place here just by a fraction of a second there. A little bit surprised to see that because he also was up in the top 2 for quite a long time. I'm not entirely sure how he jumped back. NEAL, who was running it for a while, will end up taking 4.
Yeah, so World right now at -1 as we take a look at the standings here after the first track. And, you know, for JiMin, it was kind of uncharacteristic to see him falter like that there in lap number 2, have that big collision, just kind of ricocheting off the wall and losing an unspeakable amount of momentum because, again, going back to the pre-show, he's your pension meta guy generally up until this point. So I wonder if this is him trying to take a little bit more risks and just immediately getting punished from it. So if you're JiMin right now sitting at 7th place after the first track, how do you adjust your game moving forward? Do you try to stick to the pension meta? Do you try to continue going for these risky plays and potentially make errors like you did there in track number 1? We'll see as the pick comes in. It's going to be track number 2, World Tour Terracotta Twister. Round of 16, match 1 continues now with Cool off to a great start here on Terracotta Twister.
Oh man, that bounce too after the second cut actually gave him some additional speed. So he's got a almost half nitro advantage over everybody else right now, as well as got a huge amount of speed there. DDING though will pass him here and end up taking the lead. But man, that was a fantastic start from Cool, one of the best I've ever seen. Now this track is very scary because in the inner portion of the track, there's an area where you can be knocked off the side. If that happens, your race is essentially over. So as we move into the inner portion here, let's see how these players handle it. The lines have to be tight.
Yeah, cool. A little bit of a collision right there, but able to recover nicely as it's not too congested here on this first lap. DDING with a little bit of a too tight turn, caught the inner lip of that ledge and suffered for it, falls all the way down into 8th place as a result. And I mean, even when it isn't that congested, you can see what Wolf is talking about, the risk coming in a section like that. In team match, it's not too bad because you have a lot of players that don't want to see you fall, but here in solos, every man for himself as NEAL comes out of nowhere to take 2nd place.
That aggressive line he just took there was so clean, and he is going to be behind Cool and World in terms of nitro because of it, but that was a really great pass opportunity he had there. He's going to take here. Now just trying to break into top 3 in our second lap. Cool really pulling ahead, and you've got to take tight lines in a group this competitive, so it was an opportunity here for another mistake to be seen in this inner portion. Let's see if Cool can keep his cool, no pun intended.
I think he can. There aren't too many racers right behind him, so really he can almost just play this in time trial mode as actually everybody else behind him is going to get slowed down, and that solidifies Cool lead right now. A couple more meters added to it as World is struggling to even get into draft range coming down the final 500 meters.
Oh man, it looks like we're going to have another back-to-back here. Cool is going to be added to the list of players who get first place twice in a row. He will take it and move up to 20 points here. JiMin, bit of a rough one, will spin his way into the finish line. Will drop down -1, unfortunately, but a lot of craziness in that inner portion. But as you mentioned, if you have that much of a gap between you and the pack, then you don't have to worry about taking those aggressive lines and potentially colliding with someone. You could take them safely without worrying that someone else is going to collide. We saw a massive collision with Byungsu and DDING indoors as well. They fell back to 6th and 7th, and that really hurts. But that's Terracotta Twister early, and Cool will actually get a track record off of this as well.
Not a surprise. He was a half second ahead of World at the end of that track as Cool is racing out of his mind. In track number 1, from start to finish, he was top 2, neck and neck with Leo on the first lap. On the second lap, he just took it his own and never surrendered that first place position. And now here in track number 2, the same story. He had one of the best starts that we have seen from a racer on Terracotta Twister and solos, and he rode that momentum the entire time. I don't think anyone ever passed Cool for a moment.
Yeah, I think only for like a very brief second, Ding or Byungsu, I can't remember who it was, passed him like the first like 15 seconds, but then he regained control and it was like, that's it. Never, ever after that, anyone really contesting him. Very tense atmosphere here. You know, some of these players know how tough this race is these races are and how tight you have to take those lines. So, you know, your heart rate's pumping, it's intense. One more win for Cool, and it's over. The cutoff line will be set. We're gonna find out if he can do it on his track selection of Village, Boom Hill Tunnel. We are off here in our third track. Cool as back-to-back wins. Not the amazing start this time that he had on the previous one, however, but if he wins this, it is going to end the match.
Yeah, not a great start, but not phenomenally bad either. I think he's pretty tight with the pack. Knock is a little bit ahead, but there's a lot that can happen here on Boom Hill Tunnel. This is a one-lap track with a bit of a tricky finish, and all right, Cool. A little bit of a bumpy start here.
Yeah. As long as he can build his nitro, though, he can wait for an opportunistic moment here. There's a great pass section about 2/3 of the way through the track. If you could take that line we saw NEAL do on Terracotta, there's an opportunity. It's really tough in this portion of the track, however, which is why Ding and Knock are starting to really pull ahead here, as there's so many collisions between Hero, NEAL in the middle of the pack here, the midfield, giving Knock a lot of breathing room with Ding up there in the front.
Yeah, one of the features here at Boom Hill Tunnel is how narrow this section is. There's a lot of players going for that build. I think actually Ding might have messed up a little bit there as he's going to fall all the way down to 4th place. Went for that upper build, and Cool has been able to find his way to first. And what a perfect spin coming into this section. He is so close to winning his 3rd track in a row and being the first player to pull off that victory. I think he's going to do it.
He's going to do it. He's basically done it. Cool's out of his mind today. He took the NEAL build perfectly, bounces, and then 3 in a row. 30 points to Cool, and that's the end of this group. That's it. That's the first time this has ever happened.
His heart rate at the end, 188 beats per minute. Cool was racing out of his mind. He had one of the most uncharacteristically uncool starts of any track that we've seen from him. He was a bumpy beginning from the gates. He was colliding with a wall, and then he had the most phenomenal spin turn to regain first place after the NEAL build. He rides that momentum through the tricky final section of Boom Hill Tunnel and gets first place.
And that's exactly the moment on Boom Hill Tunnel I was talking about 2/3 in. You have that moment where you could either try to take it safe and push past those taking the NEAL build. I call it the NEAL build because he was the first one to really popularize it. But he took that opportunity, jumped it perfectly, hit the spin turn like it was nothing. And I mean, some of those final sections, as you mentioned, when we were going into the track, are very tricky because you have these really hard corners that you have to avoid. And if anyone touches you in that moment, like, you can drop from 1st to 8th in an instant. But he made no mistakes. He will be the winner here, as well as NEAL, Hero, and Knock. And unfortunately for Ding World, Byungsu and JiMin, they will be moving to losers match. But it's such a rare occurrence that the cutoff line is just set. I mean, the difference between Hero and Ding is 1 point. 1 point.
Yeah, we were talking about that, man. We thought NEAL might be the one to do it. Instead, it's Cool. But the way this works, 3 track wins in a row right from the gate. That ends the race. It doesn't matter where you're at. That ends it straight up. And so for a lot of these racers, it's kind of a rough moment where they didn't have the best possible beginning. We were talking about that's one of the risks if you're someone like JiMin who likes to play the pension meta, that you might not be able to actually get your average up high fast enough once the cutoff comes in. And this one just ends in a flash, really. That's half of the matches for today. That's round of 16, match 1 over. And of course, none of these players are eliminated just yet. The top 4, they will go to the winner's match, which will eventually seed into the finals. And the bottom 4 will have to fall to the losers match where they're going to fight for their tournament life.
Yeah. Well, World's not, he's got a bit of a sheepish grin on, and he's not feeling too happy about getting knocked down this way, but it was, of course, by his teammate. And I think it's bittersweet for sure. I think, I don't know, we witnessed something very, very, very unique today, and I thought there was a pretty good chance we were going to see it. You and I both thought it was going to be NEAL, but we've been on the cusp of this so many times. It happened finally, and This rule is so interesting because I like it. It makes the group more cutthroat. It means those first matches matter more. But if you're Byungsu or JiMin or World and you're just a few points, I mean, look at Ding and World. 1 point off for Ding, World 3 points off, Byungsu 3 points off. These matches normally go somewhere between 7 and 10 rounds. To go 3, you just don't even have an opportunity to show your skills on a large, variety of tracks. It feels really bad. But if you're cool, guess what? You ended it. I'm going into the winner's match.
Yeah, I
mean,
mean,
he's probably going to be the gold racer.
You got to keep that on your mind, though. If you're Ding, if you're World, or you're Byungsu, you know that you don't have a lot of points coming in. If you see Cool threatening, you have to try and slow him down, because if he wins, you are going to lose the match no matter what. You have to go for those aggressive lines. You have to collide with him if the opportunity presents itself. And in that way, Cool having kind of a slow start might have played in his favor, where he kind of put himself off the map in the early beginning, and then you have those racers in the bottom 4 of the standings not necessarily look at Cool as a threat to potentially close it out, but then that incredible recovery, able to ride that momentum to a finish. Really one of the most exciting days we've ever had in solos.
It was really, really sick. So if you're just tuning in, guys, we're done with the first match. So if you're tuning in wondering why we're on camera, it's not because we had a crazy pause or anything like that, but the first match is actually done in like 20 minutes of racing. Even a little bit less, actually. So quite rare. Don't know if we'll see this happen twice today, but if Hojun's feeling himself, it could certainly happen. Here's our group that we'll be watching after a short break. So don't go anywhere, guys. We'll be back with that second match very soon.
I'm ready to play now. Put me in the game now. I came here to prove it. I'm ready to do it. I can't be afraid now. Put me on the stage now. I'm ready to rage now. I feel like an animal stuck in a cage and I'm ready to break out. My time, my time. None of you people can tell me to stop. This time, like the last time, you better get ready to race to the top. I'm ready to do this. Show you what the truth is. I step on the field. It's time to get real. I'm feeling so ruthless. My time, my time. None of you people can tell me to stop. Lower the lights down. Hand over my crown. Hand over my heart. I do this for my town. I do this for my crowd. So turn me up real loud. My time, my time. None of you people can tell me to stop. Yeah. So what are you afraid of? Those feelings are made of. Get in the game, your moment of fame. Show them what you made of. It's time that we stand up. It's time that we man up. For anyone asking who is the best, we putting our hands up. My time, my time. Nothing can keep me from reaching the top. This time, like the last time, I'm moving so fast, I'm ready to ride. I'm ready to throw down. It's time for the showdown. I'm ready to rise. Don't be surprised, I'll take on the world now. My time, my time. None of you people can tell me to stop. Lower the lights down. Hand over my crown. Hand over my heart. I do this for my town. I do this for my crowd. So turn me up real loud. My time, my time. None of you people can tell me to stop. My time, my time. None of you people can tell me to stop. My town, my crown. We know what it takes to be reaching the top. We're reaching the top. We're reaching the top. We know what it takes to be reaching the top. My time.